Harold Whitaker is 78 years old. He lives in Lakeland, Florida. He has been driving since he was 16, 62 years. Not one accident, not one ticket, not one point on his record. Last spring, he sat down at his kitchen table to renew his license online, the same way he had for 20 years. 5 minutes, a credit card, a new license in the mail. Except this time the website stopped him. A grey box came up on the screen. It said he was not eligible to renew online. It told him to visit an office in person. Harold thought it was a glitch. It was not a glitch. It was a rule that had changed, quietly, based on nothing except his age. And here is the part that costs money. Harold did not go in. He was busy, then he forgot, then the deadline passed. He drove 11 weeks on an expired license before his daughter noticed. 11 weeks where one routine traffic stop would have meant a citation, a fine, and a note on his insurance that would have followed him for 3 years. That is what this video is about. 5 rules, real rules, on the books right now, in states all across this country, that decide whether a 70-year-old keeps driving or stops driving. And I want you to hear the number, because the number is the whole reason I am making this video. When an American senior loses the ability to drive, the replacement cost, rides, taxis, delivery fees, paying a neighbor for gas, missed appointments, runs about $400 a month. $4,800 a year. For someone living on a fixed Social Security check, that is not a small number. Now do the math the way I do it. If you lose your license at 70 and you live to 90, and more of us do every year, that is 20 years. $4,800 a year for 20 years is $96,000. $96,000 gone because of a form nobody explained to you. And that is what gets me. Nobody explains it. There is no letter that arrives 6 months ahead of time saying, starting on your next birthday, the rules for you are different. The state does not call you. Your insurance company does not call you. Most seniors find out the way Harold found out, staring at a grey box on a screen, wondering what they did wrong. You did not do anything wrong. The rules changed around you. So here is how this is going to go. I am going to walk you through all 5 rules, in plain English, in the order they will actually hit you. The first 2 catch people at renewal time. That is where most licenses are lost. The third is the one that scares people the most, and I will show you why it is not as scary as it sounds. And the 5th one I am saving for the end on purpose, because it is the one that saves your license when everything else has gone wrong. Most seniors have never heard of it, and it has kept people on the road another 8, 10, 12 years. Do not click away before we get there. Now, let me be honest about who I am, because a lot of channels are not. My name is Ellis Grant. I am not a lawyer. I do not work for the DMV or for any state government. I have no license to practice anything. What I do is read the rules, the actual state statutes, the actual DMV manuals, and explain them in words a normal human being can understand. That is the whole job. I do not make a dime whether you renew your license or not. And one more thing before we start, and I need you to really hear it. I do not care if you feel like the safest driver on your street. I do not care if you have never had an accident in 60 years. I do not care if your eyes are fine and your doctor has never said a word to you about driving. None of that protects you from these 5 rules. Not one of them. These rules are not triggered by how well you drive. 4 of the 5 are triggered by your age and your paperwork. So please, do not sit there and think, this is about other people, the ones who really shouldn't be driving. It is about the paperwork. And the paperwork does not know how good a driver you are. Before the first rule, let me answer the question I know you are already asking. If this is real, Why has nobody told me? Here is the honest answer, and it is not a conspiracy. There is no such thing as a national driver's license. There is no federal driving age law. None. Every rule about who gets a license, how often you renew it, and what you have to prove to keep it is written by your individual state. 50 states, 50 rule books, 50 different sets of ages and deadlines. So there is nobody whose job it is to announce this. When Social Security changes, there is a national announcement. When Medicare changes, you get a booklet in the mail. When your state quietly decides that drivers over a certain age renew in person instead of online, there is no booklet. There is a line in a budget bill and a note on a website nobody reads. And it means a friend who moved to Arizona or a brother-in-law in Texas can tell you with total confidence how this works and be completely wrong for your state. The most dangerous sentence in this whole subject is, "My cousin didn't have to do that." Let's start with the two rules that catch the most people, because they arrive together, and they arrive at renewal time. Rule number 1. In a large number of states, once you pass a certain age, you lose the ability to renew your license online or by mail. You must appear in person at a physical office with documents. That is the wall Harold hit. And notice what it is not. It is not a test. It is not an accusation. It is not somebody saying he is unsafe. It is a category. He turned a certain age, the computer moved him from one bucket to another, and the convenient option disappeared. The ages vary a great deal. In some states the cutoff is 65, in others 70, or 75, or 80. The point is not the number in my mouth, the point is that your state almost certainly has one, and almost nobody knows theirs until the website stops them. Rule number 2 arrives at the same appointment. A vision screening. Most states now require a vision test at renewal once you reach a certain age, even if you have never needed one before. You stand at the machine, you read the line, and that is that. And in most states it is not pass or fail in the way people fear. If your vision has slipped, the usual result is not that they take your license. The usual result is a restriction added to it, corrective lenses required. Millions of Americans drive with that restriction and have for decades. Now, the number, because I promised you a number, missing a renewal deadline is expensive in a way that is invisible until it happens. The late fee is $10 to $30, annoying but survivable. The real cost is the citation. Driving on an expired license is a ticket in every state in this country, from about $75 to well over $200, plus court costs. And then comes the part that actually hurts, the insurance. A single moving violation on a senior's record raises the average auto premium by 20 to 40%, and it stays on your rating for 3 years. On a typical senior premium of $1,600 a year, a 25% increase is $400 a year. For 3 years, $1,200. From a renewal you forgot. Now, who this catches, and here is where I need to break something in your head. I want to talk to the person thinking, this does not apply to me, because I renewed 2 years ago and everything was normal. That is exactly the person this catches. The rules are keyed to your age at your next renewal, not your last one. If you renewed at 68 and your state's cutoff is 70, everything was normal, and everything will be different next time. Your last renewal tells you nothing about your next one. Nothing. And to the person thinking, I'll just do it online again, it worked last time. That is Harold. Word for word, that is Harold. Let me give you a name for this. Eleanor Brandt, 72, lives outside Columbus, Ohio. Retired school secretary, sharp as a tack. Drives to her grandson's baseball games 3 times a week. She got her renewal notice, put it on the refrigerator under a magnet, and did what she had always done, waited until the last week. The last week is when she found out she needed an in-person appointment. The earliest appointment at her local office was 31 days out. Her license expired 11 days before her appointment date. Eleanor did the right thing. She stopped driving and asked her neighbor for rides. It cost her about $90 in gas money and thank-you dinners, and 2 of her grandson's games, which she will tell you was the expensive part. So here is how you fix this. And here are the exact words. Do not call the main state phone line and ask a general question. You will be on hold for 40 minutes and get a general answer. Instead, go to your state's DMV or motor vehicles website, or have a grandchild pull it up and find the page called Driver License Renewal. Then look for the words senior, age, or in person. That is where it lives. If you would rather call your local office directly, not the state line, and say exactly this. I'm calling about my upcoming license renewal. I'm 72 years old. Can you tell me 2 things? First, am I still eligible to renew online or by mail at my age? And second, is there a vision test required at my renewal? And if I need an appointment, what is your current wait time for one? That last question is the one nobody asks, and it is the one that saved Eleanor's neighbors $90 in gas. Ask it. Then start the process 90 days before your expiration date. Not 30. 90. I have to stop for 1 minute and warn you about something, because the moment this topic gets popular, the crooks show up. There is a text message scam running across this entire country right now, aimed squarely at people your age. You get a text that says, it is from the DMV, your license is about to be suspended, or you have an unpaid fee, or your renewal failed to process. It gives you a link. The link goes to a page that looks exactly like your state's website, the seal, the colors, all of it. And it asks for your license number, your date of birth, your social security number, and a credit card to pay a processing fee. Every single piece of that is a lie. Here is the rule that protects you, and it has no exceptions. No State Department of Motor Vehicles in the United States will text you a link and ask for payment or your social security number. Not one. They send paper to the address on your license. So when that text arrives, and it will arrive, you do not click it. You do not reply. You do not text back, stop, because that just tells them the number belongs to a live human being. You delete it. If you are worried it might be real, look up your DMV's number yourself and call them directly. Never use a number or a link that came inside the message. Tell your friends this one. It is stealing real money from real seniors right now. Rule number 3. This is the one that upsets people the most, and I want to handle it carefully, because the truth is both more serious and much less frightening than the rumors. In essentially every state, there is a process by which someone can ask the state to re-examine your fitness to drive. It goes by different names: a driver re-examination request, a medical review referral, an unsafe driver report. The form is usually 1 page. It is usually free, and in most states, the people who can submit it include your doctor, a police officer, a DMV employee who observed something at the counter, and, in many states, a family member. Let me say that again, because it is the part people do not know. In many states, a family member can submit a form asking the state to review whether you should still be driving. Now here is where I need you to breathe, because the internet has this completely wrong. That form is not a switch that turns your license off. Nobody can fill out a piece of paper and take your license away. What that form does is start a review, and a review in almost every state means the state sends you a letter asking for one of 3 things: a statement from your physician, a vision test, or an in-person re-examination. You are notified. You get to respond. You have a deadline, usually 30 to 60 days, and you have the right to appeal the outcome. That is not a secret trapdoor. That is a process, and processes can be handled. Responding costs you almost nothing. A vision test is often free at the DMV. A physician's statement is usually filled out at an appointment you were going to have anyway, and Medicare covers the visit. Ignoring the letter is what costs you, because in most states, failing to respond by the deadline results in an automatic suspension, not because they decided you were unsafe, because you did not answer the mail. And there is a belief among seniors that being reviewed means you have already lost. It does not. In state after state, a large share of drivers who go through a medical review keep their license, many with a restriction added and many with nothing added at all. Here is the name for this one. Raymond Delgado, 81, of Tucson. Raymond's son-in-law, worried after a fender bender in a parking lot, filed a re-examination request. Raymond found out when the letter arrived, and he was furious, mostly at his son-in-law, and I do not blame him one bit. But Raymond did the smart thing. He did not throw the letter away, and he did not stew on it for 5 weeks. He read it, saw it, asked for a vision test and a physician's statement, made an appointment with his doctor for the following week, brought the form with him, and had it back in the mail in 9 days. Raymond kept his license. He got a corrective lens restriction added because his prescription had drifted, and that was the entire consequence. 9 days of paperwork. Now here is the part you actually need, the exact words. If a letter like that ever arrives at your house, you call the number printed on the letter and you say, "I received a notice for a driver re-examination and I intend to comply. Can you confirm for me exactly which documents you need, the deadline for returning them, and whether my license remains valid while the review is pending?" That last question is the important one. In most states, your license stays valid while the review is open, as long as you meet the deadline. Most people do not know that, and they park the car for 2 months for no reason at all. Write those 3 things down when they answer: what they need, when it is due, and whether you can still drive. Then get it done in the first week, not the last week. Now we get to the 2 I have been promising you, and I want to start with genuinely good news. Rule number 4 is the age-based re-examination, and the good news is this rule is getting narrower, not wider. For years, exactly 1 state in America required drivers to take an actual behind-the-wheel road test based purely on their age, Illinois, where it kicked in at 75. That is the rule people all over the country heard about and assumed was coming for everyone. It went the other direction. Illinois changed its law, and the age at which that mandatory road test kicks in was raised dramatically, into the late 80s. Drivers in their 70s and early 80s there, who had been taking a road test at every renewal, no longer have to. I tell you that because it shows the thing I most want you to understand about this subject. These rules move in both directions. The rule your neighbor told you about 3 years ago may not be the rule today. What remains, in a number of states, is a shortened renewal cycle. Your license used to be good for 8 years, now it is good for 4 or 2. That is not a punishment, but it means every rule in this video comes at you 2 to 4 times more often after a certain age. The renewal you used to think about once a decade, you now think about every couple of years. That is why forgetting is so much more expensive now than it used to be. And now, rule number 5. The one I saved. Most seniors believe a driver's license is a yes or a no. You have one, or they take it. That is what they are afraid of, and that is why so many people avoid the whole subject. Avoid the doctor, avoid the letter, and end up losing everything instead of a little. It is not a yes or a no. Almost every state in this country issues restricted licenses. A restricted license is a real, legal driver's license with a condition written on it. Daylight hours only. No interstate highways. Within a certain number of miles of your home. Corrective lenses. An outside mirror on both sides. Automatic transmission only. Do you understand what that means? It means when a state has a concern about a specific thing, night vision, highway speeds, distance, the answer is very often not stop driving. The answer is keep driving, with this one condition. And here is what almost nobody knows. In many states, you can ask for one. You do not have to wait for the state to impose it. If you know that night driving has gotten hard, you can go in and request a daylight-only restriction yourself, before anyone reviews you, before anyone reports you. You keep your independence, on your terms, and you take the single biggest reason for a review off the table before it ever starts. That is the difference between losing $96,000 of independence and losing the ability to drive after dark. Let me give you the last name, Dorothy Kessler, 79, of Greensboro, North Carolina. Dorothy had stopped driving at night on her own about a year earlier. The headlights bothered her, and she had quietly cut her own life down to daytime. Then she started worrying about her renewal, and she nearly did not go in at all because she was afraid of what they would find. She went in and asked. She asked for the daylight restriction herself. The clerk added it. It took about 4 minutes, and Dorothy walked out with a license she is still using today. She drives to church, to the store, to her sister's house. She just does it before sundown, which is what she was already doing. Dorothy did not lose anything. She had already made the decision. She just made it official, and in doing so she made herself the safest kind of applicant there is, the one who brought it up first. And now the money, because there is money in this one, and it is money you can collect this month. Most states require insurance companies to give a discount to drivers over a certain age, usually 55, who complete an approved defensive driving or mature driver course. These courses run 4 to 8 hours. Many are online, from your kitchen table. They typically cost between $20 and $30. The discount is usually 5 to 15% off your premium, and in most states the insurer must keep it in place for 3 years, after which you retake the course. On a typical senior auto premium of $1,600 a year, a 10% discount is $160 a year. Over 3 years, that is $480 from a $25 course. And in many states, that same course also removes points from your record. Here are the exact words. Call your auto insurance company, the number is on your card, and say, "I'm over 55. I want to know if you offer a mature driver or defensive driving course discount in my state, how much it is, which courses you accept, and how long the discount lasts once I complete one. Then take the course. It is the highest paying 4 hours available to a senior in this country right now. Let me tell you why all 5 matter more right now than they did 5 years ago. There are roughly 50 million licensed drivers over 65 in this country, and that number climbs every year as the baby boomers move through. States are facing that with staffing and budgets that have not grown to match, and their response almost everywhere has been the same. Shorten renewal cycles, push people in person, and lean on the medical review process instead of blanket age testing. That is why forgetting is now so much more expensive. Every rule comes around more often, and the way you fail is almost never by driving badly. It is by missing a letter. So let's add it up. Renewing on time instead of late. You avoid a citation and an insurance increase worth up to $1,200 over 3 years. Responding to a review letter instead of ignoring it, you avoid an automatic suspension and the $4,800 a year that not driving costs. Asking for a restriction instead of waiting for one, you keep the license and the independence, worth $96,000 over 20 years. And the defensive driving course? $480 back over 3 years for about $25 and an afternoon. That is real money. And every piece of it comes from paperwork, not from driving. Harold Whitaker, from the beginning of this video, he is fine. His daughter drove him down to the office, he brought his documents, he read the vision line, and he walked out with a license that is good for another 6 years. But he told her something in the car on the way home that I have not been able to shake. He said, "I've been driving for 62 years, and I felt like I was in trouble, like I'd done something." He had not done anything. He turned 78. Nobody should feel like that about a renewal notice, and you will not if you know what is coming. So here is your one job this week, and it takes about 7 minutes. Find your driver's license. Look at the expiration date. Then look up your state's renewal page and find out 2 things: whether you can still renew online at your age, and how far out the appointments are at your local office. Write both down. Put it on the refrigerator. That is the whole assignment. Now the boring part, and I say it every time. I am not a lawyer, I do not work for any DMV, and I cannot tell you what your state will do in your case. Every rule in this video varies by state, and some will have changed by the time you watch this. Verify everything with your own state's motor vehicle office. That is not me covering myself. Your state is the only one whose answer counts. And if you know somebody over 65 who is still driving, a brother, a neighbor, the woman 2 pews over at church, send them this one. Not because you think they shouldn't be driving, because they should keep driving, and the thing most likely to stop them is a letter they did not open. I read the rules so you do not have to. I'm Ellis Grant. Take care of yourself, and I will see you in the next one.